Enzo Maresca and his Chelsea side travel away to Old Trafford to take on a very struggling Man United side. Of course, that game kicks off tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. East African time. Yeah, this is the game that a lot of the football fans out there are looking forward to. And why not? The banters, the trollers, guys who want to make fun when it comes to football, the Arsenal fans, the Liverpool fans, the Manchester City fans can't wait to cook these two sides. Of course, for for context, Chelsea versus Man United is the most drawn fixture in the history of the Premier League. These two teams have drawn against each other 27 times. Can you imagine the lack of unseriousness? Of course, out of the 27 draws, 14 have come against have come at Old Trafford. Sorry. Of course, interestingly, Old Trafford is the venue for tomorrow's clash. If there is anything, guys, that I'm really praying for that shouldn't happen is that I don't want to see a draw in this game. I want a win for either of these sides, and I think we are set for that. Of course, yes, we are looking to do a successive league victory for over Man United for the first time since winning 3 in a row between November 2009 and March 2011. And during that period, they were under the famous and one of the best football managers the game has ever witnessed. That is Carlo Ancelotti, who is of course the current Brazil boss or manager. So there is a lot of interest here for Chelsea. They are looking forward to do this successful league victory over Man United. Old Trafford has not been a good hunting ground for Chelsea, by the way. It has been a very tormenting ground for them. Actually, Man United are unbeaten in their last 12 Premier League home games against Chelsea, winning 5 and drawing 7 in the process. Since losing back in 2013, that was in May, 1-0. Okay, so United seems to be like a team that's coming to this game like they're feeling so confident of maybe getting a positive result. Of course, Ruben Amorim and his side have only one win so far in the Premier League after 5 games. They have lost 2. That is, of course, against Arsenal and Manchester City, which is very understandable. The bad thing with a lot of Man United fans out there is they expect a lot from a team that is not even a top 10 team right now. That is the bitter truth. That is the reality. Guys, calm down, relax your nerves, lower down your expectations, and just watch the way the team is. Just move around. Stop these things of Ruben Amorim out and everything. This team is not even in transition yet. The transition has not even started. You are trying to judge a manager who has just come in last year in November. You get, for example, he has only signed about 5 players in total so far since coming in. Of course, his first signing was Patrick Doku from Lecce, a January transfer, of course, which happened early this year. And then the other 4 players, of course, coming in the just concluded summer transfer window. That's, of course, Benjamin Sesko, Brian Buemo, Matthias Cunha, and San Lamen. So it's still not a complete project for Ruben Amorim. He still doesn't have a complete 11 that he can call his own. So before judging him, give him time. Of course, time is not what you get at Man United, and he knows it. He knows it even best. Of course, on the other side of London, of course, Chelsea is one of the most interesting teams that I always look up to watching playing a game. And one of the major reasons why I do is because of Cole Palmer, a very good player, one of the best right now in the world. Of course, he has made now 100 appearances for Chelsea. And during that period, Cole Palmer has been directly involved in 73 goals. Can you imagine? 73 goals, which of course includes 45 goals and then 28 assists. Of course, when I say 73 goals, doesn't necessarily mean that they are all goals. What I mean is goal involvements, okay? So in the 73 goal involvements, Cole Palmer scored 45 goals and has 28 assists for Chelsea in 100 appearances. It's really a good record for such a young player. Of course, since making his debut for Chelsea back in September 2023, 2 years ago, only Mo Salah having 97 goal involvements and Erling Haaland having 85 goal involvements have more goals and assists in all competitions among all the current Premier League teams. Wow. So when they talk about Cole Palmer, it's not like someone is trying to be biased. He's the guy that Chelsea is really leaning towards too. For context, you saw the goal he scored against Bayern Munich in the UEFA Champions League on Wednesday. Class. You saw the brace he had against PSG in the Club World Cup final. Class. He's no doubt a world-class player who is going to prove a lot of all the doubters wrong out there. Of course, another Chelsea player that you have to keep a very close eye on when it comes to when it comes to this clash, especially when facing Man United, is Joao Pedro. Of course, since getting that 60 million move from Brighton and Hove Albion, Joao Pedro has has scored 3 goals in 5 games against Man United in the Premier League. Of course, he has not he has the best record against Man United compared to any other side in the English Premier League. Okay, so that's another player that a lot of Man United fans out there have to really feel like shaking around, because it's not going to be that easy. Of course, back to Man United, full focus. Okay, since match day 12 of last season, which was of course when Amorim managed his first game as the newly appointed Man United manager, no current Premier League team have performed worse than Man United. Okay? I'm repeating, since March day 12 of last season, which was the first game that Ruben Amorim took charge of as the newly appointed Man United boss, no other current Premier League team has a worst record in terms of performance since then. Ruben Amorim has gathered just 31 points from 31 games, and he has a negative 13 goal difference in the Premier League. Just imagine. It's a relegation form, really, because when you look at Man United last season, of course, finishing 15th, and then you compare them to the 3 teams that were relegated, you just imagine if the 3 teams were not that bad as they were. Because, for example, Spurs finished 17th and they lost 20 games. United finished 15th and they lost 18 games out of the 38 they played in the Premier League last season. So you can't be doing this and expect to be a top 10 team. What most fans out there don't realize is Premier League is no longer the league that we used to talk about as the Big Six league. No, the time has passed and we are now having more than actually we have a top 8 league now. Teams like Brighton, teams like Fulham, teams like Bournemouth, teams like Nottingham Forest, teams like Aston Villa, teams like Newcastle have now risen up. They also want to play among the big boys. So it's not a gimme that United have to finish in the top 8. No. The first thing that United have to do that is so clear is the fact that they have to kind of get it right when it comes to getting a very good record against these teams that I've mentioned. For starters, because this is a different ball game. We are still not touching the likes of Arsenal, Manchester City, Chelsea, for example, Liverpool. We are not touching those yet because those are out of the league of Man United right now. The basics for Man United right now is to try and start winning games against the teams that I've mentioned. Let's put it into more context. United lost home and away last season to teams like Nottingham Forest, teams like Wolves, teams like Newcastle. Okay? So there is a lot of that all comes down to affect you in the Premier League table, in the league table, by all means. Because if there is one thing that counts, most especially when you want to be now a top 8 team in the English Premier League, you need to have a very good record against your close rivals. And for Man United, I'm sorry to say this to all the Man United fans, your close rivals right now are the likes of Nottingham Forest, are the likes of Fulham, are the likes of Aston Villa, are the likes of Newcastle, are the likes of Bournemouth. So those are your close rivals right now. Don't touch that table, that part of the table where Arsenal, Manchester City, Chelsea, and Liverpool belongs. And this is coming from a passionate Man United fan as well. I'm a very passionate Man United fan as well. But at times you have to be very realistic, okay? And coming into this game, of course, Chelsea are the strong favorites, and it's for a reason. Enzo Maresca has built a very strong side. Of course, this is his second season in comparison to Ruben Amorim. And Ruben Amorim has a lot to prove, because his record has been very, 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 very bad. So bad. A relegation form. And the stats speak for themselves. So the best thing for all the Man United fans out there would be stay patient. Don't over expect. Lower down those expectations and just move with the reality. move with what is happening right now, your team is no longer a top 8 team. That's the fact. And they will really struggle to get into the top 8 this season. And that's another fact. So we have passed that time where like we used to say maybe someone has a negativity bias against Man United. The reality is right there in front of us. So of course they have went on to strengthen the attack. Of course Benjamin Sesko, Matthias Cunha, and Brian Buemo coming in, and three good players. But there is one thing that still stands out at Man United: the lack of service for their number 9. Rasmus Højlund was scapegoated as someone who was so wasteful. Of course, he was, but most of the time he was starved of services. And this chance question is really a key thing in football. When you don't create enough chances for your number 9s, how are they going to score the goals? Take, for example, if Haaland is not being serviced. Take, for example, Victor Gyökeres at Arsenal. If he's not being serviced, how will they score the goals? Mo Salah at Liverpool, how will they score the goals? Cole Palmer at Chelsea, for example, how will they score the goals? Because these are the cream de la creams of of English Premier League right now. So it's about the service before judging anyone. Take, for example, the second half display against Manchester City. How starved Benjamin Sesko was in that game. So it's a very, very, very hard game. It's a very, very hard situation right now for Man United, and the pictures right now only are very, very bleak. That's all I can say. Really bleak. So, what do you think about this game? Of course, drop your predictions in the comment section. Who do you think is going to win this game? And of course, to summarize it all, I'm giving my quick prediction and a very clear one. I'm going for a surprise Man United win. Actually, I think Man United will give Chelsea their first defeat of the Premier League season. Of course, after losing that derby 3-0, I expect a reaction for the Man United side. Of course, one of the huge breaking news from Ruben Amorim's press conference is the fact that Matthias Cunha and Mason Mount, who are two key players to that formation 3-4-3, are back in training and are going to be available to face Chelsea tomorrow. So it's a very huge news for all the Man United fans, and one that will maybe give a little bit of more hope to the team. Of course, you can always follow us for more football updates. We remain you are truly 212 podcast on all socials: TikTok, X, formerly Twitter, on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, everywhere.